Welcome to our special podcast series, marking the 50th anniversary of Arab News.
It's great to be here.
In this deep dive, we're looking back at a really transformative decade, 2015 to 2025.
10 years of quite incredible change.
Exactly. You, our listener, shared a compelling selection of Arab news articles highlighting key moments from this period. And our mission, really, is to unpack the most significant shifts, the turning points that we see reflected in those reports.
And there's a lot to unpack. It's fascinating just looking at the scope of the events covered in those pieces.
It really is.
You get such a powerful snapshot of major changes. Things like, ambitious reforms inside Saudi Arabia, but also these huge geopolitical currents shaping the whole region and, the world.
Okay, let's dive right in then, because the sources you flagged, they immediately show a decade of just intense activity.
No kidding.
We're talking Saudi Vision 2030 kicking off, the long fight against Daesh reaching a climax, that landmark day when Saudi women could finally drive.
Huge moments, each one.
And the dramatic ouster of Sudan's Omar al-Bashir. And that's, barely scratching the surface of the first 5 years.
Absolutely. Each of those carried immense weight, and we're still feeling the ripples, aren't we?
We are. Let's take 2016, Vision 2030.
Right. Unveiled by the then Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This wasn't just another government plan.
No.
It was a really bold statement, a fundamental reshaping of the kingdom, less reliance on oil, diversifying the economy, modernizing society.
Yeah, and the Arab news coverage back then really captured that sense of potential. The editorial calling it KSA's leap into future.
It felt like that, and you saw tangible things happening quite quickly.
Like what?
Well, curbing the powers of the religious police was a big early step.
The very visible one.
And then remember that first public concert? Mixed audience, men and women. Illuminate back in October 2016. That was unthinkable just a short time before.
It really set a tone. And these early moves kind of paved the way for even bigger changes later on, especially after MBS became Crown Prince in mid-2017, right? It seemed to accelerate everything.
It certainly gave the vision implementation a major push. And one thing that stood out looking back at the coverage was the structure they tried to bring in.
How so?
The targets, the KPIs, key performance indicators, specific measurable goals for different sectors.
Right.
And dedicated project management offices. That sort of structured, results-oriented approach was, quite new for the kingdom on that scale.
And Arab news articles, even now in 2025, still talk about that focus on outcomes, don't they? It seems to be a defining feature.
It does. Okay, so then 2017, the fall of the Daesh Caliphate.
A very different kind of story. This group that declared its caliphate in 2014 controlled huge areas in Iraq and Syria.
And spread terror globally. The Paris attacks in 2015, just horrific.
Arab news reported on the key moments, like the recapture of Mosul's Al-Nouri Mosque. I remember the headline, "The End of Daesh." It had that question mark.
And rightly so, as it turned out, because losing the territory of the physical caliphate didn't extinguish the ideology.
No, sadly not.
The archives remind us, don't they? Subsequent attacks inspired by Daesh. Even recently, like that terrible concert hall attack in Russia in March 2024.
It shows that dismantling the organization is the same as defeating the idea.
Exactly. And you see related challenges elsewhere, like the ongoing militancy issues in Pakistan connected to the Pakistani Taliban. It's a complex, persistent threat.
Okay, let's shift gears to 2018. A really positive milestone in Saudi Arabia.
Ah, yes. The day women could legally drive.
A huge moment of liberation. That plus the changes to the guardianship laws?
Yeah.
It felt like a significant societal shift.
It absolutely was. I remember the Arab news coverage vividly. Mo Gannon, one of your senior editors, driving in Jeddah with Saudi female colleagues. Just pure joy.
It captured the feeling perfectly. A symbol of real progress.
And it reflected this broader opening up. You started seeing those big concerts in places like Diriyah around then too, blending history and modern entertainment.
Right, mixing the old and the new. Okay, 2019, Sudan. The downfall of Omar al-Bashir.
After 30 years, a long, long rule, the Arab news reports really highlighted the trigger, the mass protests over the economy, bread prices tripling.
But his legacy is incredibly dark, isn't it? The conflict in Darfur, the ICC indictment.
Deeply troubling. And the secession of South Sudan under his watch, which crippled the economy.
And tragically, the conflict we're still seeing now involves the RSF.
The Rapid Support Forces, yes, which emerged from the Janjaweed militias that al-Bashir himself supported.
So that violence is, in a way, part of his enduring legacy.
It absolutely is. It shows how long these shadows can be. Unresolved conflicts, historical grievances, they don't just disappear.
Then came 2020. And, well, COVID-19.
Changed everything, didn't it? Brought the world to a standstill.
The Arab news coverage tracked it all. The initial slow global response, the WHO debates about travel bans.
It really exposed how interconnected we are and how vulnerable.
But the coverage also noted Saudi Arabia's response. They seemed to get praise from the WHO.
Yes, they drew on their experience with MERS and managing the Hajj pilgrimages. They implemented measures pretty quickly and comprehensively.
Still, the global impact was just staggering. Millions of deaths, healthcare systems overwhelmed, economies in chaos.
Unprecedented in our lifetimes. And the timeline in the article shows how fast it all unfolded.
And it's worth remembering, by May 2023, the WHO declared it was no longer a global health emergency, thanks to vaccines, treatments.
A testament to scientific effort, yes, though the later U.S. withdrawal from the WHO in 2025 under President Trump added another layer, didn't it?
It certainly complicated the global health picture again. Okay, 2021, another dramatic event, the fall of Kabul.
As U.S.-led troops were pulling out, the Taliban just swept back into power.
The speed was shocking. Arab News reported it seemed to surprise everyone, maybe even the Taliban themselves.
It did. And the immediate worry, of course, was for the future of Afghanistan, especially for women's rights.
Yeah. The reports highlighted fears of losing all the progress made, women's education, their role in society, leading to so many fleeing the country.
A deeply concerning turn of events. A humanitarian crisis unfolding rapidly.
Right. Then 2022, a bit of a shift, the FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
A huge moment for the region, hosting such a massive global event.
And around the same time, Saudi Arabia's football scene really took off, didn't it? That big push, attracting international stars.
Yeah, the Saudi football revolution, as it's been called. Another sign of the changes happening within the kingdom, using sports as part of that broader vision.
Moving into 2023. Two massive contrasting stories dominating the headlines.
You mean the Saudi-Iranian rapprochement?
And the October 7th attacks.
Exactly. First, that deal in March brokered by China to restore diplomatic ties between Riyadh and Tehran. That felt like a potentially major shift towards de-escalation.
It did offer some hope for easing regional tensions. There was even talk, highlighted by Arab News, of Saudi Arabia moving towards normalization with Israel, though the Palestinian issue remained key.
But then, October 7th. The Hamas attacks on Israel, and the devastating Israeli military response in Gaza that followed.
It just completely reshaped the immediate landscape. The scale of death and destruction. Horrific.
And it shattered any idea of a stable status quo. The Arab News analysis really underscored that point, the danger of letting these core conflicts fester.
It raised huge questions about Gaza's future, the wider Israeli-Palestinian issue. A brutal reminder of the cost of unresolved conflicts.
Absolutely. Then, fast forward to 2024, another unexpected development, the fall of Bashar Assad in Syria.
After years and years of devastating civil war, suddenly opposition forces take Damascus. Assad flees, reportedly granted asylum in Russia.
A stunning turn of events. Arab News analysis suggested this, along with maybe the weakening of Hezbollah and Hamas leadership figures around the same time, could signal a shift in the so-called axis of resistance.
A potential weakening of that alignment.
Potentially. And the announcement of a transitional government in Syria, well, it offered a glimmer of hope for Syrians after so much suffering, though the challenges are immense.
Immense, yes. And that brings us almost up to date to 2025, the return of Donald Trump to the U.S. presidency.
A significant political comeback. Arab News noted his administration quickly pushing domestic policies, that 50 wins in 50 days agenda.
And his focus on the Middle East.
He stated he wants to bring peace, build on the Abraham Accords, maybe use unconventional approaches, perhaps new mediators like Saudi Arabia.
So another layer of unpredictability, or perhaps opportunity, depending on how you look at it.
His return certainly introduces new variables into that complex regional and global equation. His approach will be watched very closely.
So reflecting on this whole decade, 2015 to 2025, through the lens of Arab News reporting, it's just undeniable, profound, often unpredictable change.
Absolutely. From those huge internal reforms and social shifts in Saudi Arabia to these persistent regional conflicts, the global pandemic, major power shifts, the landscape is dramatically different.
We've seen extremist groups rise and fall, huge steps forward in social freedoms in some places, that devastating health crisis that tested everyone.
And significant leadership changes, regionally and globally. It really highlights how interconnected everything is and how fast things can evolve.
Well, we sincerely hope this deep dives into this transformative decade, part of our 50th anniversary series for Arab News, has given you, our listener, a valuable perspective.
We hope it's helped recount some of those moments that truly changed the Middle East over these past 10 years.
Thank you for joining us for this special series.